So the Russian drone strike on a NATO territory is a significant act. It's not the first time that this has happened, about the 28th time, according to the Romanian defence minister, but this time it struck a block of flats and I think very fortunately only 2 people were injured. The drone was actually tracked for 4 minutes within Romanian territory, and the Romanians launched 2 F-16s at the time that were cleared to intercept any other drones that were in the air. What is interesting in these drones, Russia is launching up to 1,000 of these Shahed drones every single day. When I was operating military, weapons often only have a probability of kill of about 80 to 90%. Let's be charitable, the Russians are generally not quite as good technology-wise, but call it 80%. Therefore, if you're launching 1,000 a day, 200 won't necessarily hit their target and could go errant. Likewise, if you're going to program 1,000 drones a day with latitude and longitudes, you get one number wrong and these sorts of incidents can happen. I think in many ways it's very fortunate that only 2 people were injured as part of the attack, but it's a matter of time before something more serious happens if there is no action taken. Now, was this happen in isolation? Is this just part of the fog of war? Well, NATO's Secretary-General Mark Rutte was pretty clear that actually this was a reckless act by Russia, and of course it would have grave consequences should it have actually hit any French forces, Romanian forces or military capability or cause deaths. But this is actually part of a wider pattern of Russian activity. It was only the other day that Russian fighters were intercepting the Royal Air Force's Rivet joint that was operating in international airspace completely unprovoked, and the Russian fighters got very close with threatening behaviour. But also the Russian submarines have been threatening the UK's critical national infrastructure, and also the ship, the Yantar, which is another one of the vessels shown here, is a Russian ship that regularly patrols our waters, spying as well. And it was only the other day that GCHQ made clear that Russians are ramping up their cyber threats to the country, all part of a pattern of behaviour of Russia literally trying to threaten more and more the UK. So what should NATO actually do? Well, we've heard earlier there's been a whole series of standard condemnation of Russia's actions. There's been summoning of ambassadors and the writing of stiff letters. But quite bluntly, none of that is very credible, and it's certainly not delivering any deterrence to President Putin. NATO was proposing to build a drone wall on the eastern flank of NATO. Very expensive, incredibly difficult to do, and quite frankly, it's a bit like putting all your football field, all your players on the goal line and expecting that to help win the match. Just not credible. Ursula von der Leyen described Russia's actions as crossing a red line, but if you cross a red line, there should be consequences. What are those consequences? Because if there aren't any, then it doesn't act as a deterrent. Russia will only listen if there's a risk, benefit, reward to be had. As a result, what I actually mean by that is that Turkey was very effective at deterring Russia, because back in November 2015, 2 Russian fighter jets went into Turkish airspace. Once they announced that Russian jets needed to go, 1 turned away, 1 stayed. The Turkish military shot down the Russian jet. Now, President Putin was apoplectic with anger, took a while for the dust to settle, but never at any time since has Russian aircraft gone in to Turkish airspace. And that's the sort of deterrence that NATO needs, an absolutely robust response, because otherwise you've got an emboldened Russia that's going to be an increasing threat to the UK and the European Union, and quite frankly, we are very ill prepared.